When I step up on a diamond, 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 diamonds on my wrist. When I step up on
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. The Freight Coach Morning Show coming to you live every single weekday morning, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Central Time, to break down the realities of the transportation industry. You guys, we break down 3 articles, we bring in some industry headlines and everything else. And at the end of the day, we're just here to provide education and insight on how to navigate in the transportation industry. Because the reality is the markets are going to always fluctuate. All right. Worst kept secret out there. Markets change. There's a lot of things that are outside of our control. We're going to touch on diesel prices today. We're going to touch on automation. And then, frankly, we're going to break down like what is spot and what is contracted freight. Because I think, like, again, you hear a lot of this stuff, but what do you even do with it? And that's the thing right now is there's a lot of information that's being thrown out there. A lot of information. I don't have all the answers for everything. All I know is how to execute in these moments, because that's what has to happen. No matter what market we're operating in, you guys, you need to execute. You need to find solutions. If you want to find something wrong, there's a million excuses just to give up in any market. Even when shit's easy, things happen. But no matter what, you need to execute. You need to find solutions, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Before we jump in, though, as always, you guys, this show is brought to you by VHub. All right, they are longtime supporters of me and what I'm doing over here, and they are. Oh, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Xavier. So switching between platforms, sometimes you guys, my mic doesn't always transfer out there. I appreciate it. Again, I'm learning. That's all I can say is my bad. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again, though. I usually check that stuff, but I'm excited about today. And frankly, again, it's brought to you by VHub, you guys. Asset reutilization. I'm going to say this every single day, you guys, is the wave of the future in freight for brokers and carriers alike. I mean, regardless of what market it is in, what's the constant we need? We need capacity, right? We need trailers. Trailers need to get loaded regardless of the market. So, right now, for example, as you guys can see coming around in the bottom ticker right now, if you're a broker out there and you have customers that have freight going in and out of Canada, this is a great opportunity for you. So, for example, right now they have trailers available for round trip. You can grab one out of, and on the bottom of the ticker, it's York, Pennsylvania. And it goes up to actually Coteau du Lac, which is just outside of Montreal. And then from there, you can grab another one for your southbound freight out of Coteau du Lac going into Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, which is literally 60 miles over from York. And again, like, there's consistency here, you guys, that you can bring up and get creative in this market. You got to think, like, when there is a lot of influx of new trucks and everything else coming in there, there's also an opportunity for power only. And that's the thing is, it's like, my guest yesterday, he was talking about it on the show that his trailer's in the shop right now. So, for example, you guys could work with him and other carriers who are having this exact same issue and then use a tool like VHub to keep them running, because that's what we need, you guys. We need to keep our drivers running right now because, as my dad always said, if the wheels ain't turning, they ain't earning. All right. It's that simple. So there's an effective tool in VHub right there. And there's also long-term rentals, you guys, for this. So again, creating that drop trailer capacity, you want to get in the door with some of those larger shippers, they require drop trailers. All right. Worst kept secret out there for some people who are maybe new to the industry, or hell, you're having a hard time breaking in with that new shipper. You guys can create a drop trailer pool. All right. Create a drop trailer pool for your shipper and drive that home. That is your message. You're never going to have a shipper who says, I need you to store trucks at our facilities. But with inventory levels rising and everything else, and warehouse space becoming more and more scarce, this is an opportunity where you can rent this out. We got to find solutions. Again, back to my original point before my audio hopefully came through a little bit where you guys could hear that. No matter what market we're in, we got to find solutions. We have to find options for our customers. So check it out, vhubapp.com. Reach out to my man, Xavier Campos. He is in the comments right now. He's watching the show. Reach out to him. He's your point of contact out there, you guys. Check out how you can utilize their platform to provide capacity, no matter what market we're in. Gabe, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Jake, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm figuring this all out, you guys. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to try and proclaim to be perfect. Here is also International Road Check Week, May 17th through the 19th. Again, talk to your carriers about that. The focal point of this one this year is end components, wheel end components. Schedule that preventative maintenance right now, drivers. If you're out there, get that up and running, because it's easier to get ahead of it right now than it will be if you get a DOT officer who, I don't know what to say about them, but wants to fine you. And, don't give them a reason. Because again, we got to keep running. We got to do that little thing. We got to keep that light maintenance running on it. This is also day 17 of the Freight Coach Tally of the Freight Coach Morning Show, that there's a parking issue in this industry. Again, I will not let these topics die out when it's not appealing for me to get some likes and vanity metrics on social media, because that's not what it's all about here. You guys, we're all about education and progress, and I won't let this die out. I talk to drivers all the time. I know it's important to them. All right. Truck parking is a massive issue out there for some. All right. And we need to work on that. A lot of these local municipalities through that infrastructure bill are getting millions of dollars right now. Let's see some of that be used for the right things here. It's also day 17 of there not being adequate restroom abilities for drivers at certain facilities. So brokers, if you're out there and you're prospecting, you're building your book of business, that's a point of contention. I don't know if I would want to work with facilities that don't allow anything like that, or the ability for the driver to drop their trailer and leave, at least if they're not going to allow them to use their inside facilities, which is an entirely different conversation, but they should have the ability to leave if they're going to be there for an extended period of time. So I'm sure you guys saw diesel prices. Like, what in the literal fuck? That is absolutely insane how much that jumped up overnight. I get all of my information on diesel from the EIA, www.eia.gov. And it talked about the diesel prices. It's at $5.50 a gallon. Think about that. $5.50 a gallon for diesel. And unfortunately, I don't think this is the top. I don't think this is the top at all. I think this is going to continue to rise. I mean, just for an example, it is $2.37 increase year over year. $2.37, excuse me, in 12 months. And, with everything that's going on right now in the world, it is just one of the, I don't know. All I know is that for example, the importance of, so it's like some of the, like the benefit of working with some of these larger shippers, or not even just the larger shippers that are out there, like fuel surcharge and everything for carriers and brokers alike, talking about fuel surcharge. Cause for some facilities, not all facilities, that's a pass-through expense. So again, there's a way out there. And, frankly, you guys, we got to work together through this. And I was thinking about putting some content out there today about how to properly navigate a market shift. How do you handle this as a broker? How do you keep your carriers profitable? Because I think that when there's a market shift that happens, the initial thing that people want to do is start driving down those prices. They want to start making a little bit more money on it. But, based on a lot of the earnings reports that have came out, nobody was not making money over these last 24 months in this industry, or 18 months, or whatever that looks like. So again, it's like, if you've got a carrier base that you're running, so here's the problem. All right. When you start pushing those prices down, when those rates start falling, the driving pool you're eliminating capacity at that point. All right. Like, you're literally setting your customer up for failure when you start pushing those prices down. You got to think of it that way. And furthermore, all of those carriers that were there for you over the last 18 months or whatever that looks like, if you've actually invested in the quote unquote relationship that everybody loves to fucking throw out there until it's not beneficial for them anymore, it's amazing how that term goes away when there's a market shift out there. And again, I'm not here to knock anybody's hustle. I'm a proponent of making money, but you guys got to think, all right, over the last 18 months, there's been ebbs and flows, right? There's ebbs and flows every single year, but what's the constant? The constant in any market is trucks showing up. unless you have somehow created a way to teleport freight from fucking Los Angeles to Dallas and don't need a driver anymore. That is a constant. All right. We need to work through this. You want to be a value add to your customer? Execute. All right. It's that simple. You need to execute right now. You need to keep these trucks running, because when you again, there's headlines out there about, rates are dropping and everything else. And I get that. I understand that. I've dealt with that for the 10 years I sat in that seat as a broker. Rates are going to contract. They're going to expand. Typical supply and demand, typical ebbs and flows of the freight market that's out there. But again, one thing you guys need to start living by right now is overpay your carriers when you don't have to, so they undercharge you when they don't have to. I know a lot of brokers who don't play the fucking spot market game year in and year out. And guess what? They never have problems finding trucks. They never have problems finding and building a carrier base for the long term. Because you can't be focused on how do I get rich today? Because at the end of the day, you guys, there's freight that's going to move tomorrow. There's freight that's going to move next week, next month, next year. Do you want to be the one moving it? Or do you want to hit reset on your book of business every 30, 60, 90 days because you want to fucking make an extra $10? That's what it boils down to. The cost that you are incurring by shuffling through this stuff is, unfortunately, it doesn't show up on a balance sheet. All right. I wish that was a line item as lost productivity for pulling carriers off. Because here's the thing. When you start driving down prices on the spot market, you become a backup option. All right. You think, oh shit, I just made an extra $200 on this lane today. Well, guess what? You're a backup option. They're out there looking for that load that's paying $1,500, because somebody out there is going to be paying the rate that they're looking for. And guess what? That's what's going to happen is they're going to find that. Then all of a sudden their truck falls off, or they're not unloaded in a timely manner. We could go through and through on all of those things, but that's what happens. You're a backup option. Then you recover it again. Then boom, there's another 10, 15 minutes wasted. Then they fall off. And then it gets inching closer and closer and closer to that pickup time. And then instead of just paying that initial rate of, say $1,500 on that lane, now you're paying $1,700 or $1,800 in some instances, however that looks, but you're not making any additional money. If you would have just booked the initial carriers who are in the trenches with you and pay them what they deserve on a load, you guys, that's how you navigate through this stuff. You don't play this back and forth pulling carriers off. If you can't come down $250, you're not hauling my freight anymore. At the end of the day, it's not your fucking freight to begin with, broker. All right. It's your customer's freight. And are you protecting that relationship? Because I know how hard it is to build a book of business from scratch. I know how hard it is to build up a book of business and then lose it all because of my own greed. All right. Then you start back at zero. And then what? Then you're going to blame the market. Oh, the market's tough. There's this, there's that. Stop fucking blaming the market. Execute. I know that's a little bit of a rant there, and I haven't gotten into any of the articles yet, but it's just like we have to focus on this. There are solutions out there no matter what. That's what we need to focus on, are solutions. All right. We can sit here and find every excuse in the world. All right. Every excuse in the world. Some people want you to quit. That's why they're pushing stuff. They want you to quit. Your competition wants you to quit so they can scoop up your market share. The free market is beautiful for this reason. It rewards the people who do the right thing. All right. And that doesn't mean making $1 million a fucking day. You got to play the rolling 12-month cycle of this, all you guys, and never lose sight of the fact that you need trucks. All right. You need trucks. You need trucks to remain profitable because, again, 97% of the trucks on the road are small business, you guys. Those are the ones working with you, brokers. The mega carriers do not need you. They will not work with you for the long term anyways. They do not need you. They're set up with all of them, all of your shippers. And if you don't think for 5 seconds they won't do what they need to do to get set up, you haven't been in this industry long enough. It is fucking cutthroat out there. All right. Anyways, Andrew Teal, my good friend. Literally connect with Andrew Teal, you guys. He's one of the smartest people in freight. He doesn't get the credit he deserves out there. I learned a shitload from this guy. There's more to this. Are your rates at the shipper, contractor spot? And are they the same? Shippers knowing the market changed as well, and they're pressuring intermediaries to reduce costs. Their spend went up 50% over the last 2 years. They have boards, shareholders, and employees. Yep. Dedicated Trucking LLC. What's up? Saw you in the comments there as well. Mr. Wonderful Vibes. I don't know about that yet. All right, we kind of covered fuel prices. Again, you guys, like we can't control fuel prices. All right, for the most part, we literally have nothing to do with that. As a broker from their perspective out there, but there's a lot of articles that are coming on, kind of breaking all of that down. I don't want to. I'm too fired up about that, and frankly, I think that so the first article that it was actually from the Daily Wire, and so this guy is actually going to be with my friend Tyler Robinson of Diesel Laptops. He's got a free virtual conference coming up, and you guys should check it out. Diesel Laptops, they're a great follow out there. Tyler Robinson is a phenomenal guy. I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He's helped me immensely over my career here over the last couple of years and kind of starting out all of this stuff. But yeah, check it out. Mike Rowe actually is going to be a guest at their virtual conference coming up, and it's free. So check it out. Diesel Laptops out there. Ryan, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Dan, the driver, Rowe, what's up? I hope you got your maintenance done. I saw your post out there about, 2:30 in the morning. Dan Rowe is a savage, and you guys need to follow him as well. I love watching his journey out there on the road and everything. First article, though, is from the Daily Wire. Mike Rowe says truckers know they're not buying the Putin price hike for skyrocketing fuel prices. And he broke it down. He was on Fox and Friends, and they talked about the new season of How America Works. And he and the Fox News host discussed how soaring inflation is hurting American consumers from fuel prices to increase at the grocery store. That he's seen truckers sending in videos at the pump, and he gets a video every now and then, and that what they're sending, it's literally like $1,100 to $1,200 right now. And we were talking about that yesterday on yesterday's show, and again, it's like the power of budgeting right now is so key. And Dan, if you have any tips and tricks that you could give out there to anybody who's watching this or going to hear this about how to properly budget out for fuel when it shifts like this, because you've seen market shifts, you've seen sky high fuel prices, you've seen fuel prices drop and everything else. What's the best approach? I mean, my guest that I had on yesterday, he's got his rolling budget, and he plays with the ebbs and flows of it all to see which is going to remain the most profitable for him. Let's see. It says that he also says that the guy said to me the other day, it's like falling down the stairs in slow motion. We know it's coming. We're watching it happen in real time. It's not just diesel, it's gasoline. And so it's just like the people out there see it. The people out there who've been in this industry long enough know what's going to happen. But again, I feel like that information needs to continue to be put out there for that. Maybe the driver who doesn't know. At the end of the day, I think, again, the entire purpose of all of this is education. That's what it's here for. That's what this community and this network that I'm building up is about, education and progress. So again, how do we keep trucks moving? All right. That's what we need. That 97%. How do we keep them moving? That article was from the Daily Wire. And then this second one was from my friends over at the JOC. This one was on automation to growth, key to growth at the West Coast ports. It was an interesting read. It's amazing how little automation there is actually at the ports, comparatively speaking, towards other countries in the world. And and then again, they have the Longshore Union out there, counter to it. They claim it's job destruction. Container volume has increased at the automated terminals, but this has been at the expense of other terminals that can't have had an offsetting drop in container volumes. And the increased productivity, the PMAs is claiming at the two automated terminals has meant less work at terminals and the overall loss of employment for longshore workers. We haven't seen an overall increase in productivity at the ports, just a shell game to mask the human cost of job destruction. Excuse me. It was an interesting read. I think that, there are, I don't know. I can't accurately say what, because, obviously the Longshore Union is going to have their stance and put that out there on what it is. But I think that last year, whatever your personal opinions are about what happened at the ports or not, we need some form of automation. They need to clean that process up. Like that was bad at the beginning, but flip side, we made it through. But again, it's like, what did we learn from those instances? And again, like back to the complete correlation to OTR and what we do out here. Once you've been through the shitty times, and you learn how to navigate through it, it makes you realize how much more effective you need to be when it's not as hard, so you can continue to remain profitable and consistent, because consistency is key. All right. Little details are key no matter what. And, that was a good one. Automation key to growth at West Coast ports. Read it from the JOC. I wanted to save the last 10 minutes because my friends over at DAT, I was watching their weekly market breakdown this morning. It was at 7 a.m. Pacific and 9 a.m. Central Time. And they were going over everything out there. Andrew Teal, another great point. Maintain proper tire inflation, slow down your speed, etc. And, Dan, I saw that your post the other day about, drivers that were leaving their trucks idling and everything else out there, and how you shut yours down, I believe, is what you had said in your post, and everything about talking about conserving your fuel burn and everything else. Again, if anybody out there who's watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or any of my other platforms, and you guys need to get on LinkedIn and follow Dan Rowe. Last article was written yesterday, and this is from DAT released this, and it was, breaking down the spot and contracted freight. All right. What's the difference and why it matters? Because again, I think that in any market shift that's thrown out there, you can see that there's a clear market shift that's happening. But like, what does it even mean? What is spot freight? What is contracted freight? And this was wrote by DAT on their blog post. Let's see, classification systems make it possible to grow and organize data like freight rates to compare with other data. In the transportation industry, freight transactions are classified as contract or spot, but the difference between the two can be at times subtle. Subtly comes from transportation and logistics strategies becoming more flexible and agile to address supply chain disruptions. The data that shippers, freight brokers, and motor carriers use to analyze contract and spot freights must therefore be highly accurate, relevant, and timely to make the best possible decisions in different scenarios. It says, and it does a breakdown here, sizing up freight contracts. Most freight transactions between 80 and 90% on average are executed through contracts. For shippers, contracts are essential tools for budgeting and securing capacity, especially in higher volume freight lanes. Carriers also benefit from having repeat business from contracts to create network efficiencies and balance freight flows for multiple customers. And then it also mentions in here that one distinguishing feature in freight contracts is the fuel surcharge. And again, talking about what's currently happening right now, fuel can be a pass-through expense as the national average rises. And if you are on contracted freight out there and you can work with shippers that have this is a great capability that's out there. And this doesn't necessarily exist on the spot market. So that's why again, it's looking for that consistent business and talking about this stuff on the front end. Freight contracts are initiated by a procurement process called a freight bid or an RFP. Shout out to my friends over at Emerge. You should check them out. If you're a shipper listening to this, or you're bidding for a shipper that has an RFP and they're not digital, they're sending over those Excel spreadsheets, you should introduce them to my friends over at Emerge. They're literally changing the game with their stuff. Because then it's like, because what they mentioned here, the complex and lengthy RFP process has changed significantly, but it can be a lot more expedited. Let's see. Also, watching the spot market transactions are dynamic by nature. The rates are often negotiated within a few days, or in some cases, hours of the ship date. So again, like when you're living and dying by the spot market, it's very hard to build a sustainable book of business off of that. Because generally, if you're waiting for those opportunities, is that you're not building a capacity base as a broker. Okay. So it's like, if you're waiting for your customer, again, if you because again, you get in the door with the shipper, you guys, and at the end of the day, that's the first load you're going to start off. It's going to be a spot market load. It's going to be from random city in Arizona to random city in Colorado. It's not going to be a power lane or anything like that. And you're going to have to go out there on your load boards and you're going to have to develop capacity. But where's the consistency in that? And I think a lot of people rely on that because, again, it's easy. It's easy to wait for a load to come to you, and then you take said load and throw it up on a load board and then wait for carriers to call you. That's easy. But it's more efficient. Contact with your shipper to find out the consistency behind these lanes. And it takes a little bit. Like it's not going to happen on the first load you move for them, but that constant outreach to your shippers to find out, hey, that random load to random city in Colorado, I had a driver who really actually enjoyed that load. When is it available next? How far ahead can you pre-plan? How far ahead can you work on that load? And then furthermore, with that carrier, that book that load, are you talking to them about the long term, or are you being extremely vague in how you're selling this load? If you're selling your loads like this right now, you guys, it picks here, it delivers here, this is what it pays, this is what it weighs, or this is what it weighs, this is what it pays, take it or leave it, you're setting yourself up for failure. All right. You need to have in-depth conversations with carriers, especially like right now, for example. All right. Another reason of speaking to drivers, A, like they're a fucking human being for starters, but B, long-term partnerships. All right. Again, the constant that never changes, whether it's a spot market load or a contracted load, is survey says you need a truck. All right. So get out there and have in-depth conversations with them. When's the last time you've talked to a driver or a carrier to find out what region they like to run? Not region they're calling you, not lane that they're calling you on, but what region do they like to stay in? All right. What days of the week are they available? Do they have a drop yard at either facility? Pulling off area codes on cell phones, you guys, is an extremely effective tool. Start memorizing those things. Also, checking their MC prior to talking to them as well to find out a little bit more about them, and develop those in-depth conversations with your carriers. Find these things out. How many trucks do they have in their fleet? Find out the why. Why do you want to run this? All right. Is there a profitable customer for them shipping out of Kansas City and brings them down to Atlanta, Georgia? And then what can we do to find that to get them a reload to go back up into that area? Again, there's freight out there, you guys, that's going to be moving. Are you going to develop your carrier base to align with that? Stop living and dying by the spot market, you guys. Just because it's technically a spot market load does not mean that you treat it as such. Okay? You can get ahead of these things. The goal for you as a broker, especially when you're building a book of business, is to keep your customers and your carriers off the spot market. Again, like I talk about, developing your own market, which again, this isn't easy. And I understand why people don't want to do this. But when you develop your own freight market, your customers are not out there working with your competition. Your carriers aren't out there working with your competition because you're keeping them moving and you're keeping them profitable. All right. Bring the market shifts to each other. Don't just say, oh, hey, the rate's now dropping $400. It's never fucking dropped $400 overnight. All right. Unless it's intentionally dropped $400 overnight by somebody. I've never had that happen. I've never once had a customer come to me and drop my rate that significantly overnight. Has there been a buildup to it? Yeah, of course there has been. There's been rebids. There's been shuffles. There's been a lot of that stuff that's happened. But again, when you're coming to your customers about this, like, hey, this is what we're seeing out there in the market. I've already talked to my carrier base. They know what's coming in the market as well. How do we work through this? How do I keep moving your freight? How do I keep my carriers profitable? That's what you need to focus on right now. All right. Again, there's a lot of noise that we can find, but there are solutions out there. We just have to think outside of the box. You cannot rely on reshuffling your carrier base. I mean, aren't you guys sick of setting up 15, 20 new drivers a day, every single day, using them one time and then never calling them ever again? That one carrier could literally build up your and turn that customer that you're working with them on by reutilizing them, reusing their capacity. That could literally turn it in. And here's the thing, you guys, if you've never built a book of business up yet, or if you've never seen it through multiple freight cycles with customers, you guys, it starts with one lane. All right. Then one turns to two, two turns to four, four turns to six. That's how you build it up. All right. And then furthermore, those drivers that you're sourcing for the long term, they are your absolute best sales reps. All right. They are inside of every single facility in America. All right. And if they're moving some consistent freight and you're doing right by them, guess what they're going to do? Hey, the shipping manager at this location, I told them you're a good person. They're expecting your phone call. I've had that happen. All right. You need to find a solution through this stuff. Sorry, but that, again, that's a great read that DAT put out there. All right. It's a great read on defining, the spot and contract freight. What's the difference and why it matters? Let's see. Andrew Teal, driver, shipper, broker. No one will care about your business and business more than you. It can't care for you. Market shifts. Yep. Great points. Ryan, my thoughts on cost plus models with brokerage. I don't know. I mean, does it work? It can work, but is it the most effective? It depends on the customer. Honestly, it depends on how highly commoditized that freight is. Is it on a lane is it on a dry van lane of, say plastic bottles that ships 75 a day from Atlanta to Chicago? That could be effective. But if you're talking more complex freight that's out there, I don't see that being an effective model at all. I think that, again, you got to, it depends on the commodity and how high volume it is that if you can pull that out there. But again, I don't think that just adding 10% every single time is the most effective way. Cause I think, like, in all reality, you're costing yourself and the carrier money in that. And frankly, you're probably costing the customer money as well in that situation. But I see the benefit of it. I don't know if it's the most effective tool because, again, at the end of the day, I don't have all the answers to everything. I've never worked in a cost plus model. I've always been off of contracted loads or spot market in there. And then project by project, when I was doing heavy haul and open deck, it was by project. It wasn't anything in that regard where you could do that. It was a one bid at the beginning. And then some of those heavy haul bids, you did that like 2 months prior to it actually moving because that they were bidding on that as well. Yeah, Andrew Teal, niche freight tends to work cost plus better. Taking one shipments. Yep. Yeah. So that's it for today, guys. I appreciate you kind of joining in, and sorry about the early audio difficulties, but we got that all fixed up. And then at the end here, you guys check it out. Another one that they have round trips from my friends over at VHub. They also have it from Chicago up to Toronto. And then you can get another snag a trailer in Mississauga and head back down to Edwardsville, Illinois, which is just outside of St. Louis. So again, check that out. You guys find capacity, provide capacity for your customers, and then help your carriers out. You know, again, if one of your core carriers right now is a trailer in the shop, how can we look into renting one? My friends over at VHub app have a solution. VHubApp.com. Hit up my man Xavier Campos. We'll be back tomorrow for the number one morning show in freight. That's what we're calling it. It's the number one morning show in freight. The Freight Coach Morning Show every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. We are live breaking down 3 industry articles. I upload all the links to the articles on my YouTube channel. Check it out over there. I appreciate you guys all so much for your growing and continued support. And again, we're just here to talk about the realities of the freight industry and my experiences and how we can navigate through these challenging times or even good times, because at the end of the day, freight's moving. It's either moving with you or it's moving with your competition. I appreciate you guys, and we'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. And we